Okay, today's demo, Red Bear MKX 50 Cub Combo. Samples made in the 90s in Russia. Your standard Marshall, Fender, E type of tones. It's loaded with 25881s in the power amp section. This one's been modded to take 12AX7s in the preamp section. It's also had the power transformer swapped out to standard US voltage. It's also loaded with the Celestion Redback 150 watt speaker for a little bit more headroom and a little shift in the mids. Be playing my Fender Stratocaster parts caster. Take it off and get it in the shot, in the camera's view. Okay, so that's sage green, made in Mexico body, the roasted maple, made in Mexico neck with a 12-inch radius. Pickups are Yosemite neck, Yosemite middle, and a Tone Rider generator bridge. 300K pot in the volume, and the Tone also have a 500K pot for now. Start out on the neck position. Have no effects, this is just dry. I'll do some dry tones, then I'll go back and add some effects. I'll be using a Nunibur Immerse and a Cattle and Bread Bella Epoque Deluxe. I'll go back from the tape echo, and I believe the last echo, which is a Memory Man, or sort of in that realm. So we'll start on the neck, just dry tones. On the low input side, I'll swap over to the high input side and do some gain tones, dry, and then I'll add some delay, maybe some reverb on that tone, and see what we come up with. There we go. Okay, so that was a rundown going from the neck down to the bridge. So I'll jump over to the high input side and do some gain tones. I'll crank the preamp to about, let's say 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, to get some bass in there. This amp is really bass heavy, but I'm trying to keep it dialed back so it doesn't muddy up the notes. I should also mention that the generator bridge is wired to where it's coil split, and the fourth, second position, whatever you say, whatever you want to call it. So bridge humbucker split and combined with the middle. So that position, it's actually split when I'm in the fourth position. So it's not full humbucker and middle, it's split and then combined with the middle pickup. So I'm going to try to get, this is recording with my iPhone, so trying to get the volume up. I'm actually sitting directly in front of the amp behind the camera that's pointed at the amp. So I want to try to get the volume up to where you're not hearing any of my pick hitting the strings. So crank it up quite a bit, and we'll roll through the same neck all the way down to the bridge. As you can see, it pushes quite a bit of air. It's very loud. Sitting, like I said, right smack dab in front of it. So let's kick on some reverb, and I'll dial up the gain a little bit while I'm still on the gain side, higher gain side of this amp, and then I'll switch back over to the clean. So we'll go through some neck tones and bridge tones with a little bit of reverb. So let's do some reverb on the neck with the Immerse by Nuniber, and then I'll jump over to the Bella Pop when I go to the bridge. Okay, so I'm back over on the low input side, and I'll kick on some reverb with the Immerse by Nunibur. And if I didn't mention before, I'm on the spring setting on the Immerse. Okay, so there's kind of some rough generic tones. I was trying to demonstrate kind of the string separation as far as like the different notes and just noodling around. And the primary purpose of this video is to kind of demonstrate what the amp sounds like in a bedroom setting or in a room, as well as cranked up quite a bit. So now jump over, we'll plug in, I'll run through the Blackstar HC metal distortion pedal that is on my pedal board, just to give you a quick demo of how well this low input side of the amp takes pedals. I think it takes pedals really well. All the drives that I ran through it sound pretty good, and the Blackstar metal is pretty good fit for the amp. So I'll start off on the gain, the low gain side on the Blackstar, and I'll take the reverb off, and then I'll jump over to the high input side on the bridge. Okay, so I turned it down. I'm gonna unplug the Strat. I'm gonna grab the PRS SE245, and I'm gonna go through just some quick clean tones while I'm on the low input side using the Black Star HT metal, and then I'll jump over to the high input side and do some gain tones on that with the Bella Epoch Deluxe. So I'll use the Bella Epoch Deluxe on the off and on with the Black Star on the two different gain channels that it has through the low input side of the amp, I'm sorry, and then the high input side as well. Okay, I'm on the plugged into the PRS 245. Start on the bridge, and then I'll work my way up to the middle and then to the neck. So right off the bat, you can hear that a double humbucker, a mahogany body style guitar is actually quite loud, substantially louder than the Strat. Maybe it's the wiring that I have in the Strat. Maybe it's the low output pickups, how I have them set. I have no idea. But you kind of hear this PRS is louder than the Strat. So I'll go up to the middle. Okay, neck position. Okay, so we'll engage the Black Star HT metal distortion pedal on the lower gain side, the green channel, if you will, and then I'll move over to the red, and I'll turn on the Bella Epoch with a little bit of delay. See how that sounds. Start on the burst position. I'm gonna move straight up to the neck. I'll do the neck I forgot to mention this guitar has coil splits, so we'll coil split the neck. And I'll do a demo of this guitar with this setup, pickups, and a different date, and go through the different tones that this guitar has. But for now, let's just do the neck, coil split, and then we'll switch over to the gain side, the high input side of this amp, to see what that sounds like. Okay, coil split, neck. Okay, so now I'm gonna turn off the distortion pedal, crank down the delay, turn it down a bit, and then jump over to the high input side. And we'll go through some different gain tones on that high input side. Okay, we'll start on the neck. Sorry, I had to turn down the bass just a little bit. Keep farting out. Jump straight over to the bridge. tighten it up. So we'll do a boost using an MXR modified overdrive. I'll click that boost on. I'm going to turn down the gain, and I'm going to use another overdrive pedal I have, and I'll post a description and a snapshot on my pedal board at the end of this video, or somewhere in the video. Okay, so I'm using this overdrive, adding a little bit of gain. The master volume is completely dimed out, and all the controls are roughly about noon, except for the treble is cranked up just a little bit. Okay, so now we'll click on the MXR and I'll turn this off, this other overdrive pedal off. Okay, so I had it on, I had the mid shift engaged on the modified overdrive, and I had a little bit of gain up. So I'm gonna I just took that off, and now we'll listen to it with just using it as a standard boost. But the tone at about little crank past noon. The bass frequency control knob that pedal has, it's at about noon. The volume's all the way up, and the gain's all the way down. Okay, so I think my ears have about had it sitting in front of this. So I'll do some other demos later on, and I'll go through some more of different settings and different tweaks to the amp. Hopefully you can see or kind of zoom in on the amp the way I have it set up. What I think about this amp, it's a really good platform for pedals, and depending on the type of gain, overdrive pedals, depending on the gain structure of them, it actually can work with the amp or it doesn't. I don't think the MXR modified overdrive sounds that great with it. That's just my 2 cents. no matter how I've set it, it kind of thinned out the tone. And then again, it may be the speaker, maybe through a 412 or something with a lot more body may sound a little better. The Redback is an okay speaker for this amp, but I don't think it's a perfect fit. So like, hate, leave me comments below. More videos to follow. Peace. Okay, just wanted to show you the pedal chain, the pedal board that I'm running, and that I'll be running into the Red Bear. That's just your standard pedal train, pedal board. So from the Polytune, it goes into the input side of the decimator G-string, and then the out comes back out into the modified overdrive by MXR, and then it comes into this Castlevaniac overdrive pedal. This is a custom pedal from Gremlin Pedals. They're here in Texas, out in Austin. Great folks down there. They make some awesome stuff. This pedal is no exception. It's just a great Governor style JCM 800 tone, and everywhere in between. It gets a variety of different tones, but it's your classic overdrive tones. Not really a blues breaker or a tube screamer. It's in the realm of a fuzz, more or less like a fuzz as you really dime the gain. Okay, so from that comes into the Black Star metal. And then out from the metal, that's going into the decimator in, put side on the G-string 2, and then the decimator out is going to the amp. Okay, so in the effects loop, I have the send coming into the input of the decimator 2 over here. Okay, then that out comes into the bell epoch because it's before, so it doesn't cut off the tails. So the out comes into the input of the bell epoch. And then from the out of the bell epoch, that goes into the immerse. And then the out of the immerse comes into the ditto looper. And then the out is just, from the ditto looper, is going into the return of the amp. Okay, so that's the setup. The reason I have the decimator in the loop, the decimator 2 in the loop, and it not using the G-string as it's intended, is because I encountered a ground loop using this in the effects loop on the Red Bear. I don't know if it would create a loop on other amps. I don't think I ever noticed it on any of the other amps that I used this setup in, but I did notice it on the plug-in into the Red Bear. Okay, so if it wasn't a signal ground loop that I was going to encounter, I would think I would encounter a power ground loop, because if you're powering your pedals out, there's two power supplies underneath my pedal board, and one power supply, the C spot down there, or the CS7 I spot, that's powering all these pedals in the loop. So the decimator 2, the ditto, the immerse, and the bell epoch. Okay, on the other side I have a cheap Donner, I believe, or some other brand power supply that's powering the decimator, the Polytune, the modified overdrive, and a Castlevaniac. Okay, and then the Black Star metal, that's a wall wart, just because of voltages, or you're not going to get those off of a standard power supply or a brick style. Okay, so if I was running a decimator 2 G-string into either one of these power supplies, and because it's in your guitar signal is running into the input and these pedals are in the loop, in my opinion, you would experience a power ground loop. If you didn't experience and you were able to solve the input or the output going to the return, because from what I understand, it takes a signal from the input and the output, or I'm sorry, the input and the effects patch. So in this part of the decimator, the in and out, it's taking a ground, and then it's also taking a ground from the input. So if the grounds are two different voltages, then from my experience, then you're going to have a loop, or you're going to get unwanted noise. So even if I were to solve those problems, which I think I did, on the input side, I was still getting noise on one of the inputs. So to mitigate all that, I just went with a standalone decimator too. Okay, so even if I had, I think, solved these from any type of box, would have been a degradation in tone, in my opinion, and also I still would have encountered a power ground loop, because all these pedals share, no matter which supply it's running into, these pedals are still connected within this unit. So they should have put a ground loop switch on there, just like they did the rack version. However, they didn't. So that's still a great noise gate. I only use it for this Black Star metal pedal on this higher gain side. So the lower gain side, I don't really need it. Even at loud volumes, it's not really, with a humbucker style guitar, it's not very noisy. Until you get over to the second gain channel, it can get quite noisy. So I don't really use this much. This is mainly to cut hiss down in the power amp of the Red Bear. As you crank it up, it starts to get some hiss on the gain side. So that's pretty much all I use this for. I could switch these. I did. This was a used one. I don't know if it's defective, but the sweet spot was well past noon, whereas the sweet spot, you can see it's actually quite before noon on the G string. So if I were to swap these two, this dial would be cranked almost at 1 o'clock for the sweet spot. And to me, that's just too close to the threshold of cutting out the signal altogether. Okay, so that's the reasoning for that. Over here, this is a red foot switch. I made this for the Red Bear, the sensitivity switch. The manual or the schematic calls for this cable to be hardwired directly to this switch. I just used your standard disconnect switch that came with a 2-button that actually, or it came with the amp. I just took it apart, cannibalized it, and used the parts for this build. This is just your Hammond enclosure in red. I didn't paint it, it came that way. So just drilled a hole in the top and one on the back, on the bottom top side. So in my opinion, if this was hardwired, I don't think the tone would be affected as much if you're using this switch to boost or to switch on the sensitivity switch on the front of the Red Bear amp. And this is probably applies to all the different models of the Red Bear that have they all have the sensitivity switch. If they called for it to be hardwired to the switch, there's got to be a reason. Maybe the standard switchings or the jacks, they don't operate and kill the grounds or switch off the grounds inside the preamp the way they're designed to. So that's my reasoning for that, and that's just of what I've noticed. It definitely changes the tone of the amp wired the way I have it. It's not as noticeable as it was with different jacks. This one that I used that came out of the actual foot switch was that I mangled. It seemed to change the tone less. Your standard stereo jack, like on a guitar jack, it seemed to come in second, and then a switching jack that I had from a Klon build, it sounded even worse. So in order, it was the Klon switching jack last, the standard stereo jack, and then this one that was inside there. I don't know what type it is, so that's beyond me. All I know is that it sounds as close as it does to where if I disconnect this from the back of the amp, it sounds, if I connect this, it sounds as close as I can get to where if I just unplug the foot switch cable and just use the button on the front of the amp. Okay, and all it does is it must lift the ground, and the tone is a little bit thinner. It's not as full sounding in the mid range. It kind of thins it out. It can work for some tones. What was really interesting is the 2-button. When I first got the amp back from being serviced, and I plugged it in and used it. It was almost like having two different gain stages on the high input side. So if you dime the gain or set the gain wherever you wanted, when you toggle through the 2-button foot switch, it would give you different gain structures. I don't know if that was safe for the amp, but it was definitely neat to experiment with if you wanted a thinner tone or just a honkier mid-range in your tone. So I didn't really want all that, and plus the pedal was too big to do that. So I just made a standard 1-button foot switch that you see there. Okay, so that's enough about the foot switch. Moving on, that's the pedal chain. Okay, that's everything I got going on. It's running into the amp. And I use this setup for pretty much all the amps that I run into. Let's take a quick look before I wrap this video up. I'll take the PRS that I was using in the video out, and I'll just stick it in front of the camera. Okay. So these are Godo locking tuners. I believe these are 510 series. Get the focus. The Delta 510. This is a Schrader, and I know my guitar is a little dusty and dirty, but that's okay. I believe it's Schroeder. I'm not sure how to pronounce that name, but the company makes hardware for guitars, very unique. This one's made out of aluminum, and then it has brass saddles. I have steel bushings down in there. I believe they're the Faber, however you say that, steel bushings. And then these are, I believe, from Philadelphia Luthier Supply. This is their steel round studs. And this is a nickel bridge, nickel covers, which takes us up to the bridge. This is a octane bridge that I took the nickel cover off of a generator and put it on this to match the Birmingham neck that I have in this guitar. Okay, so there's a Birmingham neck octane bridge. Okay, I got coil split for each one. The way it's wired is coil split to the slug side on the bridge, and on the neck, Tone Writer's description, the way they just schematic to wire it, I have it wired to coil tap the screw poles, the screw side of the humbucker. It's set up in E flat. This is with 9s, and this is, I don't know if I can get zooming. There we go. This is the PRS core nut. I don't know if you can see, if I can hold it up and get it to zoom in. Focus. Maybe if I get it closer. Okay, so I don't know if you can see right there's a gap. For their core models, this is actually thinner than your standard nut. Okay, so orange drops. This is your standard orange drop capacitors in this one. I think it's a 22 in the bridge and a 50 or 15.015, 0.022 microfarad. So 0.015 microfarad in the neck, and then in the bridge it's the 0.022. I'm gonna bring the Strat into the camera. So this is made in Mexico Strat. This pick guard's from Greasy Groove. They're a company out in Canada. So I have a generator bridge, just regular standard spacing. The Yosemite middle and Yosemite neck by Fender. This is the roasted maple 12-inch radius neck that Fender makes. Made in Mexico body. I believe this neck's made in Mexico, but doesn't matter. The quality on this is pretty darn good, in my opinion. Quality parts. So, Kill Switch by Tessie. This is an arcade style that I took the volume out of there. Volume, tone, I believe I have a 22 or a 47 capacitor in here. I believe it's a 47 right now, and I'm going to change it out to a 22. So right now it's a 47, 0.047 microfarad capacitor, like standard in Strats. 300K pot and the volume, and then a 500K in the tone. This is like some weird jack. I forgot the company that makes it, but it's like really grippy. So it has a bunch of prongs in it. It's a stereo. It grips the cable like Gorilla Glue. Strap locks, Fender strap locks, Fender locking tuners. Yeah, that's about it. This one's set up in E flat as well. So that's pretty much the guitars that I'm running into the Red Bear for the demo. I'll post some more specs that I may have missed in the description. But if you got any questions, leave them in the comments below. Other than that, till next time, peace.